World's a stage, and all the men and women merely players. They have their exits and their entrances, and one man in his time plays many parts. Here's DTM Jordan Camenker with a speech entitled, One Part, Truck Driver, Lemonade Included. DTM Jordan Camenker.
All the world's a stage. Well, that's William Shakespeare the Bard from the play As You Like It. It was almost my grandfather's favorite line, and in my brief time on the stage, I've played many parts. Son, father, husband, grandfather, brother, nephew, cousin, student. But in the employment world alone, well, I've played a few parts. Ranch hand and stage hand, bartender and seafood cook, longshoreman and litigator. I was an usher with the Ringling Brothers Barnum and Bailey Circus. Makes sense, doesn't it? And a college professor. But one of the most instructive roles takes me back 50 years this summer when I was a truck driver. That's right, ladies and gentlemen of the Toastmasters jury. I was 18 and on the precipice of graduating. And, well, I had big plans. I was going to go overseas, work as a tour guide in Spain, incognito, of course. And then I was going to hitchhike up to Sweden and into the welcoming arms of a certain young lady about whom some of you have heard me speak before. Or so I thought. The tour guide gig fell through. I was crestfallen and crushed. Sometimes life gives you lemons, and when it does, lemonade. I was given an opportunity to work as a truck driver, transporting art from shows and museums and galleries across the Southeast. Would I do it at least for a few months? Okay. And wow. What a cavalcade of experiences and a whole lot of lemonade. They gave me a GMC truck and a pocket full of credit cards, and they told me I could pick the route. I could pick the time I wanted to drive as long as I made the schedules that the galleries and the museums set up. We want you here Thursday at 2 o'clock. So it didn't matter how I got there, as long as I was there Thursday at 2 o'clock. It was an absolute delight. First trip, all the way to Gainesville, up 13th Street to the University Gallery, a Hiram Williams exhibit. He was a giant in the art world back then. And folks, his paintings were giant too. The first one I had was taller than me and more than 10 feet wide. And that, folks, is how I learned about the value of bringing buddies. The first buddy I brought was David Lawrence. He used to be my neighbor when I was in 6th grade. He had just been back from NAM, and he wanted something to do, and he was begging me. I said, okay, David, yeah, I can use you. And after we're north of Tampa on 75, starting to get close to Ocala, he says, Jordan, do you mind if I drive? David, you don't have a trucker's license. No, I drove in NAM. Okay. I start to doze. He's gone through a checkpoint where, you know, those way stations on the side of the road, just south of Ocala. David. I back up the truck. I make him switch with me, because if they see him without the license, it's not good for him. Well, the moment we get to the weigh station, they weigh me, but they want to check everything, and they decide we don't have a certain permit, and they arrest me. And I am now taking a trip in the deputy's car. Of course, I'm telling jokes along the way, and I'm in the deputy's car, and they bring me to, well, they make a nice, comfortable place for me in the Seminole, the Marion County Jail, where I get 3 squares. I get one phone call, and the lawyer for this shipping company is a state senator in Sarasota, so after about 45 minutes, I'm released. But before that happens, I'm in there with other prisoners in this holding cell. And they look like a rough bunch. What are you in for? Shot my neighbor. Probably killed him. So they leave me alone, and then the deputy goes, okay, Joker, come on out. Now, I'm not going to tell you that time when I went to Valdosta, and there was that old high school girlfriend, and I took a 10-mile detour, and she invited me to lunch, and I had lunch. No dessert, just lunch. I know what you're thinking. There was that. And then, anybody here been to the Orlando Museum of Art? The Orlando Museum of Art, just on the other side of Lock Haven, is the Minello Museum. And the one permanent collection. The one permanent collection is a fellow named Ed Cunningham. Well, I had a setback in 1974. I was supposed to take his collection of natural primitives, not 10, not 20, over 100. And he wouldn't let me until he sat down with me and interviewed me to make sure that I was the right guy to ship his art. And during that chat, I learned so much about his work. And now he is the guy who anchors the collection in the Minello. Oh, it was fantastic. You ever seen the old Holiday Inn off of 95 just outside of Daytona? One time, I could not get anyone to answer the bell and come to the desk at 2 in the morning. So I went behind the counter and I found the guy bound and gagged back in some room. And of course, free room after that. We called the police. A little bit of lemonade there. So it was an absolutely wonderful ride. After that, of course, I thumbed up to Minnesota, and I worked the last few weeks of the summer as a longshoreman in Duluth Superior. It was a great ride and a priceless experience. You can often discover a silver lining to the misfortune that befalls all of us. The lemonade that invariably trickles and sometimes flows from the lemons that life gives you. The bard knew it well. There was another passage in that play, my grandpa's favorite and mine in all of Shakespeare. There's a duke hiding out in the forest, and his loyal followers are starting to bum out. So he tries to encourage them with these words on how to handle adversity, the bad luck that comes your way. Sweet are the uses of adversity, which, like the toad, ugly and venomous, wears yet a precious jewel in his head. And this, our life, exempt from public haunts, finds tongues in trees, books in the running brooks, sermons in stones, and good in everything. Toastmasters.